If you just searched how to retire with no savings at 50, or is it too late to start saving for retirement? I need you to stay right here because this video was made specifically for you. What I am about to share is not a get-rich-quick scheme, not a lecture, and not a highlight reel from someone who never made a financial mistake in their life. This is the real story of how I started from almost zero at 50 years old and built something that actually works. And the strategies I used are ones you can start applying this week, regardless of your income, your debt situation, or how many times you have already tried and fallen short. And here is the thing nobody warns you about when you are starting late. It is not just the money that hurts, it is the silence, the shame, that quiet voice that says you should have figured this out years ago. Most financial advice out there is built for someone in their mid-20s. Open a Roth IRA at 22, max out your 401k by 30, invest early and let compounding do the work for 40 years. Great advice, genuinely. But what about the rest of us? If you are 50 and hearing that, it does not feel like advice. It feels like a reminder of everything you did not do. And those retirement calculators online, they are practically designed to make you feel hopeless. If you have ever typed in your numbers, watched that projected balance appear, and quietly closed the tab because the result made your stomach drop, this video is for you. Let me ask you something right now. What if I told you that the next 10 years could completely change the financial trajectory of the rest of your life? Not someday, not if everything goes perfectly, but actually realistically, with a plan you can start this week. Because here is the truth that most financial content will never say out loud. Starting at 50 is not a death sentence for your retirement. It is a wake-up call. And wake-up calls, when you actually answer them, have a way of changing everything. The people who watch videos like this one and do nothing, they are the ones who run out of time. But you are still here, still watching, which tells me something important about where you are headed. So let me take you back to what 50 actually looked like for me. I had changed jobs 4 times in 15 years, and every time I switched, I either cashed out my small retirement account or simply left it behind and forgot about it. I told myself I would catch up later. Later never came. There was a divorce in my early 40s that wiped out savings I barely had. Then came medical bills that turned into debt I spent years quietly paying down. My kids needed things. My parents needed help. Life kept arriving with its hand out, and retirement felt like a luxury conversation for people who had already figured everything out. And honestly, nobody ever sat me down and explained how any of this worked. Not my parents, not school, not anyone. I was not irresponsible. I was just never taught. And I suspect that sounds familiar to you too. I remember the exact night it happened. I was sitting at my kitchen table, 50 years old, eating leftover pasta alone, and my phone buzzed with a notification from my bank, a routine alert, nothing dramatic. But something about seeing that balance, that embarrassingly small number, just broke something open in me. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, fork in hand, staring at the screen. And then I said out loud, to nobody, I cannot keep pretending this isn't happening. That was it. No lightning bolt, no inspirational speech, just a tired man, cold pasta, and a moment of brutal honesty with himself. I didn't have a plan that night. I didn't suddenly become disciplined or motivated. I was still scared, still ashamed. But something had shifted. I stopped running from the number and decided for the first time to actually look at it. That decision changed everything. Once I made the decision to stop avoiding it, the first real step was brutal but necessary. I had to sit down and look at everything. Not tomorrow, not after the weekend, right then. I opened every account. I wrote down every debt. I calculated what I was actually spending each month versus what I thought I was spending. Those two numbers were embarrassingly different. Here is what I want you to understand. This step feels like the worst one, but it is actually the most freeing one, because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. To do this without spiraling, give yourself a time limit. 30 minutes, one notebook, No judgment. You are not grading yourself. You are just taking inventory, like a doctor reading a chart. The numbers are not a verdict on your worth. They are simply your starting point. And every meaningful journey has to begin with an honest look at exactly where you are standing right now. Here is something nobody tells you when you start late. You actually have advantages that younger savers do not. The IRS gives people over 50 something called catch-up contributions. That means you are legally allowed to save more than a 30-year-old can. That is not a consolation prize. That is a real edge. But beyond the numbers, think about where you are mentally. At 50, you know what actually matters to you. You are not guessing at your priorities anymore. You are not distracted by every shiny financial trend. You are not splitting focus between student loans, starter apartments, and figuring out who you even are. You have clarity. And clarity, when combined with intention, is genuinely powerful. Most 25-year-olds have time but lack direction. You have direction. Now you are adding time back into the equation. 50 is not a deadline you missed. It is a starting line you finally reached with everything you need to actually run. Here is something most people completely miss, and honestly it feels like a secret the IRS buried in fine print. Once you turn 50, the government actually lets you save more than everyone else. It is called a catch-up contribution, and it is one of the most powerful tools available to late starters. For a 401k, the standard contribution limit sits around $23,000 per year. But once you hit 50, you can add an extra $7,500 on top of that. That brings your total to $30,500 annually. For an individual retirement account, the base limit is $7,000 per year. After 50, you get an extra $1,000, bringing it to $8,000. These numbers are not small. Over 10 years, maxing these out consistently could mean hundreds of thousands of additional dollars sitting in your corner. Most people have no idea this exists. Now you do. Now here is where things start to feel genuinely exciting. Let's talk about compounding and what the next 10 years can actually do for you. Say you are 50 years old and you start contributing $500 a month into a retirement account. That is $6,000 a year. With an average annual return of 7%, by the time you reach 60, you would have roughly $83,000 saved. Push to 62, and that number climbs past $100,000. Now add catch-up contributions. If you are maxing out closer to $1,000 a month, you are looking at well over $160,000 by 62. These are not lottery numbers. These are real, reachable figures built from consistent, intentional action. Compounding does not care that you started late. It only cares that you started. 10 years is not a consolation prize. 10 years of focused saving is genuinely transformative, and the math proves it. Here is something nobody talks about enough. Saving more only works if there is actually more money coming in. So let us talk about the income side of this equation, because that is where real momentum gets built. In your 50s, you likely have something younger people do not: genuine expertise. That expertise has real market value. Whether that means negotiating a higher salary, moving into consulting, or picking up freelance work in your field, your experience is a legitimate income asset. Think about side income too. Tutoring, coaching, renting a spare room, selling skills online. None of these require starting from scratch. And here is something worth noticing. Many people in their 50s start seeing expenses naturally drop. Kids becoming independent, loans finishing up, obligations wrapping themselves closed. That freed up money does not have to disappear. Redirect it immediately and intentionally toward your future. More income plus smarter redirection equals real traction. Here is something nobody talks about enough. Retirement does not have to mean what it meant for your parents. That image of fully stopping work at 65 and living off savings alone, that was one version of retirement. It does not have to be yours. Semi-retirement is a real and powerful option. Working part-time in your 60s, maybe 20 hours a week doing something you actually enjoy, changes the entire financial equation. Suddenly you need less saved because you are still earning something. Think about passion projects that generate income, consulting in your field, teaching, coaching, selling something you create. These are not backup plans. They are legitimate retirement strategies. When you loosen your definition of retirement, you open up more paths forward. Maybe full retirement at 62 looks like part-time work until 67. That flexibility is not failure. That is smart, modern planning working in your favor. Now let's talk about Social Security, because most people treat it like a default switch they flip whenever they stop working. But for late starters, it is actually one of the most powerful levers you have. Here is what matters. If you claim at 62, you lock in a permanently reduced benefit. Wait until 67, your full retirement age, and you get your complete benefit. But delay until 70, and your monthly check grows by roughly 8% every single year you wait. That is not a small difference. That could mean hundreds of extra dollars every single month for the rest of your life. So the real decision is this. Can you bridge the gap between stopping work and claiming benefits using savings or part-time income? If yes, delaying Social Security becomes a guaranteed return that no market can touch. Use it as a tool, not a default. That distinction changes everything. Here is something most people completely overlook when they are building a late-start retirement plan, the house they are living in right now. If you own a home and you have been there for 10 or 15 years, there is a very real chance you are sitting on significant equity. And that equity is not just a number on paper, it is a tool. Downsizing to a smaller home can free up tens of thousands of dollars that go directly into your retirement savings. Relocating to a lower-cost area can dramatically reduce your monthly expenses, which means your savings stretch further and last longer. Some people also explore a home equity line as a bridge strategy, though that requires careful planning. The point is this: your home deserves a seat at the retirement planning table. Do not treat it as separate from your financial picture. For many people in their 50s, it is the single biggest untapped resource they already have. Here is something nobody talks about enough. The financial work is only half the battle. The other half is what happens inside your head. When I started this journey at 50, I was constantly comparing myself to friends who seemed set. They had beach house conversations while I was quietly panicking. That comparison nearly broke me before I even began. Regret is heavy. I spent months replaying every bad decision, every missed opportunity. But here is what I finally understood. Regret is just energy pointed in the wrong direction. When I redirected that same energy toward action, everything shifted. Fear of the future never fully disappears. But it shrinks when you have a plan. Progress will feel painfully slow at first. Celebrate every small win anyway. The mindset shift that changed everything was this: stop measuring where you are against where you think you should be. Measure only against where you were yesterday. That single change kept me consistent when nothing else could. Let me tell you about Margaret. At 50, she was a single mother, a school administrator, carrying credit card debt, and exactly $11,000 in a retirement account she had barely touched in years. Sound familiar? Margaret did not find some miracle investment. She did not inherit money. What she did was make a series of quiet, unglamorous decisions consistently for 10 years. She cut her housing costs by moving into a smaller place once her youngest left for college. She maxed out her catch-up contributions every single year. She picked up consulting work on weekends, not forever, just long enough to eliminate her debt within 3 years. By 60, Margaret had built over $200,000 in retirement savings, owned her car outright, and had a clear, calm plan for the next chapter. She told me the best part was not the money. It was finally feeling like she was in control of her own story. If what we have covered today is already starting to shift how you think about these next 10 years, then you are exactly who this channel is built for. Go ahead and hit subscribe right now, because every single week I am breaking down the specific moves, the real strategies, and the honest conversations that matter most in this final stretch before retirement. Not vague advice, not recycled tips you have heard 100 times. The kind of clear, actionable guidance that actually helps you walk into retirement with confidence instead of anxiety. And I will tell you this, what is coming in the next few videos is something I am genuinely excited about. We are going to go even deeper into the decisions that can make or break your retirement outcome. You do not want to be the person who finds those videos 2 years too late. So subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and let us keep building this together. Your future self is going to thank you for showing up right now. Here is the roadmap, broken into 3 clear phases. Years 1 and 2 are about foundation. You are building your emergency fund, cutting unnecessary expenses, and getting every dollar working with intention. This is where you stop the bleeding and create real cash flow. No investing heroics yet, just stability and clarity. Years 3 through 7 are your power phase. This is where you go aggressive. Max out every retirement account, eliminate high-interest debt completely, and increase income wherever possible. These middle years are where the real transformation happens. Compounding needs fuel, and you are providing it consistently. Years 8 through 10 are about positioning. You are transitioning from accumulation to strategy. You are deciding when to claim Social Security, what retirement actually looks like for you, and how your housing fits the picture. You are not scrambling anymore. You are steering. 10 years, 3 phases, 1 decision at a time. This roadmap works because it is built for real life, not a perfect spreadsheet. Here is what nobody tells you about starting late. The goal was never perfection. It was never about having done everything right. It was simply about starting. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, statements spread out in front of me, feeling completely frozen. The shame was heavy. The silence around it was even heavier. I had spent years avoiding those numbers because looking at them felt like confirming my worst fears about myself. But then something shifted. Not dramatically, not overnight, just quietly, steadily, 1 decision at a time. Going from paralyzed and ashamed to having an actual written plan, an actual direction, an actual reason to feel hopeful again. That feeling is difficult to put into words. It is not just financial relief. It is something deeper. It is reclaiming a future you had quietly given up on. That transformation is available to you too, right now, exactly as you are. If you are watching this at 50 or 55 or even 58, I need you to hear this directly from me to you. You have not missed your window, not even close. Everything we have walked through in this video, the catch-up contributions, the compounding, the Social Security strategy, the housing equity, the redefined retirement, none of it requires you to be 35. All of it is available to you right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you stand today. I know what it feels like to sit with the weight of lost time. I carried that weight for years, but I also know what it feels like to put it down and start moving anyway. That is what I am asking you to do. Not perfectly, not all at once, just forward. You are not behind, you are beginning. And beginning at 50 with intention is worth more than drifting at 25 without direction. You are exactly where you need to be. And one more thing before you go. If you started late and you're still not sure where you stand right now, drop your age and current savings in the comments. No judgment. I read every single one, and I mean that. It is not just something people say. Your numbers and your situation are exactly what helped me figure out what to cover next, what questions to answer, and what this community actually needs. So do not scroll past. Take 10 seconds, leave a comment, and know that someone on the other side is paying attention. You showed up today. That already puts you ahead of where you were yesterday.